You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Of course, you might not be back. This might be your first time. And if it's the first time, welcome to the show. I hope you like it. Let's see. Nothing too crazy at the moment, but I have to do a little flip-flop from what I normally do. Lately, I've had a bunch of people that I've ran into in not a bunch, but a handful of people that I've ran into in real life and in email and a few other places, where I'm always curious when they find the show for the first time where they found it. And it used to be that most people found it through Instagram, which is the social channel I've talked about that I'm on and enjoy the most. So that makes a lot of sense. But lately, I've had a lot of people say they found it through other means or through telling friends or something. And I think that's the most powerful thing out there is when you tell your friend, hey, listen to this show. I think you're really going to like it as your friend. I know you, and I'm giving you a little present by telling you about this show. So give your friends a present. Tell them about the show if you haven't already. Just, send them a text. Be like, check this episode out if this one does it for you. Or check the last episode out. Whatever. Just share it with one person. That helps out so much more than you could possibly imagine. It's just good for everybody involved. Good for the show, good for your friend, and good for you because you did a nice thing. So, but seriously, sharing helps a ton, and so for everyone that's done that, thank you very much. Really, really appreciate that. And speaking of Instagram, if you are not following the show on Instagram, it's at The Tone Mob, and I'm posting nonstop gear stuff. I mean, I post some other things too, but it's always pedals. I'm doing a lot of videos for IGTV, so if that's your thing, you want to hear some of the sounds, the weird stuff that I'm creating. I've been doing a lot of stop motion things. So Instagram is where I put most of the content that I create, minus this podcast, obviously. So if that's your thing, check it out there. And yeah, without further ado, we'll get into this episode with Mr. Tommy Marz. If you don't know who he is, check out his podcast called Sound Vapors. He's also part of, obviously, the Tommy Marz Band, and he explains all that stuff. He's a really cool guy. He's fun to talk to. His show's a lot of fun, and he talks to some really high-profile, interesting people on there. So you slide over and check that out if you're into guitar and music-based podcasting, which you probably are. So anyway, without further ado, here's Mr. Tommy Marz. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar tone and the people behind it. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Tommy Marz. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, glad to do it. This is a lot of fun. Thanks for getting in touch and everything. This should be a fun episode.
Heck yeah! I want to talk about some guitar tone. Love it.
Oh, guitars. We don't talk about that on this show. We mostly talk about our food preferences. So this is going to be a little bit of a different thing than maybe you signed up for.
Well, salad. I like salads, so that's good.
Boy, this is the wrong podcast for you then, if it's all about salad.
Sorry, man. Sorry, man.
No, maybe we could just jump right into everything. Give everybody, what's your musical backstory? How did you get here? And then we can get into gear stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm, it's weird. It's almost it's kind of an annoying thing. I have the Tommy Marz stuff. So that's like, I would say my singer-songwriter. I have a pop thing. I like pop music, but like the Tommy Marz Band that's the rock stuff. That's the dirty stuff, I'm a grunge kid, man. I love grunge rock and roll, and that's more of that stuff. But when I say annoying, it's a little annoying just that, I don't know. I kind of wish it was a different name because I think people get confused. So I have, people that are listening to music on the Tommy Marz Spotify, And then there's the Tommy Mars Band Spotify, and they get a message like, wait, what is this? So
Gotcha.
yeah, so it's kind of it's a weird thing, but anyhow, so how that basically started was I was in a band, and then with these two other guys, Brian and Jason, and the other guy that was in it, we split ways, and so the three of us said, hey, let's carry on, and we started another band called Go to Zero, and we wanted to rename it and kind of just refocus our energy on doing like alternative rock because the other one was kind of bluesy. So then I had a buddy that played guitar, and I really wanted to make it a 4-piece because I kind of wanted to try to do like the front guy thing. I love playing guitar, but I kind of wanted to try that and see if I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we did. We formed the band, and then around here, I'm from Detroit, and just around the city, things kind of started to happen. That buzz, that sort of thing started to happen. We started playing shows, and then all of a sudden, people were lined up outside the door. The local radio stations kind of got involved, started playing our tracks, that kind of stuff. And it was kind of really exciting. And then I don't even know the years, man. It was like 4 or 5 years later, I got this bug. Hey, I want to record not a solo record because that sounds so like douchey, but I want to record some other stuff that's not like rock and roll music. I want to do kind of some poppy singer-songwriter type stuff. And I was really getting into John Mayer right about that time. So I was like, okay. So Jason, my drummer, I was like, hey, let's focus and let's do this kind of singer-songwriter poppy thing. And he was totally on board. So we're recording and doing this weird stuff or whatever. And then something weird happened. So the last day, that was supposed to be the last day of recording in the studio, I was already there, and Jason walks in, and I have like all the mics set up and everything. And he's kind of like, what's going on, dude? And I'm like, I want to do a cover song for the record, for the solo record. And he was like, okay. And I told him it's going to be Faith by George Michael. And he was like, really? Like, I didn't even know you liked George Michael. And I was like, yeah, I'm actually a big fan. I think he's got a great voice. So that day we recorded, we tried some, I don't know, what I thought was weird stuff. It was actually Jason's idea to mic some stairs that were in the studio. And we did some stomps and all this kind of stuff because I want to make it like the same but different type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I recorded it that day. Yeah. And I thought it turned out pretty good. So long story long, I was like, hey, seems like it might be one of the better songs on this solo record. So let's shoot a video for it. Called up a friend of mine, said, hey, do you want to be in the video? And it was just kind of off the cuff stuff. So we put it together, put it out. And then George Michael, he retweeted it to his followers.
Oh, nice.
And it was like, yeah. So I was like, what? This is insane, because it was one of those things where the views were happening. And I didn't know at first. It was like, overnight, it was like 20,000, then 25,000, 30,000. I'm like, what? I am not that popular. You know what I mean? Like it should be 300, And so anyhow, so this girl I know, she sends me a text and she's like, oh my God, Tommy. She's like, George Michael retweeted your video, or tweeted, not retweeted because I didn't tag him. He tweeted the video out to his followers. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that kind of started that whole thing. And then I don't know, like sometimes this happens in this business. It's funny. I feel like we made two really great, really just good rock music, rock albums and stuff. And it did well locally, but maybe on a little regional basis, you can play some shows outside of your home base, but all of a sudden this video kind of gets out there, and then, then this other stuff starts to happen where, you get placements on TV shows, and sync placements are a really good thing for an artist up and coming, because it gives you a little bit of income and a little bit of exposure and stuff. And so that whole crazy thing happened.
Sorry to interrupt. It's funny. I just heard that term for the first time today, which is strange for how long I've, known about, certain aspects of the music business. But I'm guessing if I just heard it for the first time, some of my listeners probably don't know what that means either. Could you elaborate? I actually heard it on heard the Black Keys talking about it on Rogan. Is why I heard it.
Nice.
But so anyway, you could elaborate on what that means? What's sync music?
Okay, so like when you license your music and they get like what they call like a synchronization license, and they basically put your music on a show. So there'll be, sometimes it's really easy. They'll take a snippet of your song and they'll put it in the background of something that's happening in the TV show. Sometimes, like for instance, what happened with me was that started to happen with Faith, but all of a sudden the other thing was, do you have anything else? And be honest, I can't remember the name. I should have looked this up, but there's something, and I can't remember the name, but it's where you go in from a commercial and out to a commercial. And they were like, oh, can you take this other song you have, Only Human, and make these, I can't think of the name, make these things for it. And I was like, yeah, no problem. So they use those for like some of the MTV stuff when they went to commercial or out. And it's like really not my music. It's really just beats. So my voice is not on it at all. So you wouldn't even know it was me. But yeah, that was my stuff doing that. And
Gotcha.
so, yeah. So when you do that, there's other things that come along with that. So for instance, I had a couple songs they used them on a couple episodes for Carson Daly. Right. So there was like, when they're going out of commercial, sometimes they're coming in and then they use them for like background stuff. So they might be talking to an artist and like, a song is playing in the background, that kind of stuff. Sync for that is so important because every time it gets reran, I get a check. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I get money. So it's kind of a neat thing when you kind of put that net out there and hopefully you get, 5, 6, 7 sync placements. And then, it's kind of just, you have people getting that money for you. It's not like I don't go out there and search for it. Like there's, you join BMI or ASCAP or something like that, or, like I use Song Trust, and, they're diligent about going out there and make sure you're getting all the royalties that you deserve.
Gotcha.
I hope that answers the question. I don't know.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. It's basically music. You let people use your music for certain limited things, basically.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to derail that train. I just knew there was probably a couple people sitting there going, I don't know what that means, because that's what I was doing earlier and had to look it up. So.
Hey, that's cool. The Joe Rogan that you mentioned that. Oh, so I haven't listened or watched to that episode on the Rogan show with Black Keys, but man, I've been kind of binging on his stuff. The James Hetfield one was, did you see that one?
I did not. Is that pretty recent?
No, actually, I think it's a couple years ago. So I'm like way
okay.
Behind, it's awesome.
I don't really dive into his back catalog. He just puts out so many podcasts that when I just see a name that I like, I'm like, that one, that'll do for today. So I don't catch them all, but of course I seen Black Keys and I was like, well, I'm going to listen to anything with Dan and Patrick talking about stuff, like big fans. So
yeah, for sure.
Anyway, so you started getting some sync placements, and then what? Then what? I derailed the story from there.
Oh, it was one of those things where, okay, yeah. So the truth is, I had like the Facebook page and, the Twitter page and all this stuff. And it was, okay, so we were at Crossroads. I didn't think it's a Crossroads. But anyhow, so it was like Go to Zero had been around a while. And sometimes when you don't really make it fully, you don't make it big. Sometimes it's best just to change the name. It's like, you ever watch The Wire? You ever see The Wire?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So there's a part, I think it's season 2, where Stringer Bell's talking about changing the name from WorldCom and, all those things. And whatever they had there, WMD and, all the other names they called their product. But I know this is way stretch here, but sometimes it's best to just kind of rename something and then come back fresh and strong. And I felt like Go to Zero, I felt like it was very early 2000s of type of a name. Okay. So if you make it really big, like, Green Day is Green Day because it's, it's Green Day. They're supposed to be big, but you probably wouldn't name a band Green Day today. It doesn't, in today's music landscape, it just doesn't seem like that would be like a new band coming out. So how I felt was, so Go to Zero was like, I felt like it kind of been aged and we did what we had to do. So the Tommy Marz stuff, I felt like was getting some heat and it was kind of going somewhere, and the Facebook page was getting kind of busy. I mean, we were getting more than ever thought. Thousands of people were following the page, and it was just kind of organically, and people were sharing Faith, the video and stuff. And so that time comes where I did the singer-songwriter thing, and it was awesome. I love doing the pop songs, but I was ready to rock. I was ready. I was like, okay, dude, I'm ready to write some killer rock songs, and I have these ideas. So now it's, it's time to decide, are we going to do a Go to Zero album? So around this time, Brian, who started Go to Zero with us, he was kind of transitioning out of being in rock and roll type of deal. And he's a tremendous bass player. So all these things are kind of happening. And so Jason and Chris, and so Chris was playing guitar with me and Go to Zero, and Jason's the drummer. And we kind of just got together, 3 of us. And I was like, Chris, man, do you want to move the bass and we'll do the trio thing? Nirvana, The Police, some of my favorite trios, Silverchair. And, he was about it. He was like, oh yeah, that's killer, man. That'll be awesome. And I know he could handle the bass because he's a really good guitar player. Right. So, and for me, was like, I didn't really want to play the bass, and I like to jump on stage and jump and maybe jump off an amp or something. I just didn't want to do that with the bass. I want to do it with guitar, Jimmy Page, man. What the heck? Jimi Hendrix, like I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so here's the ideas for songs. They love the ideas. And so I said, okay, we're gonna do it as a 3-piece. So I was like, the name, should we keep it go to 0? And so both of them were like, no, I think we should call it Tommy Marz Band. And I kind of voted against it. I was like, I just feel like, I think I used the word douche earlier. I felt like douchey, man. Like, no, like I don't want to call it Tommy Marz Band.
I don't want to be that guy. Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy. I'm not like not John Mayer. I'm not one of these guys that names a band after, it just didn't feel right. So we talked a while. This was weeks. We kind of going back and forth, and now we're kind of really developing these songs. And I don't know, the page was really busy. The Twitter account started to get a lot of followers or whatever. So it was like, all right, I think you guys are right. I think there's a lot of heat on the Tommy Marz thing. So let's do it. Let's just call it that, and we'll just rebrand it that way and go forward. And so we did. And I think it was 2015. Yes, 2015, we put out Bringing Alpha, and it was just a really rock. It was just a rock album. And I don't even know what to classify. Some people say, I always have those grunge influences. So I love Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots. So of course it's going to have some of that in there, but I felt like it kind of had some of the new stuff, like the newer Foo Fighters type stuff. What it didn't have though is, like you mentioned, Black Keys. It didn't have that kind of sound, which I love that sound, but it didn't have that kind of new rock sound. It still was that post grunge rock. Right?
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so that happened. And then, I signed up with, I got a management company, and they were, really making things. They're taking really good care of me, and making sure, again, with sync placements and all that. Now they're kind of like really kind of handling all that stuff. And then, the next thing you know, the pages, they get verified and social media, and it sucks. That's the way our world is, because it's kind of a joke, to be honest with you, that's kind of how it is, but it really holds a lot of water in that realm in social media, having those pages. A lot of people, they kind of follow you because they're thinking, oh, this guy is, or this band is, they're verified. They got a blue check mark. They must be important, that type of thing, which is, I don't really buy into all that stuff, but I know that's the kind of the way the social media world works, right?
Yes, I've been trying to get a blue check. They think I'm a fake person, I guess. They don't,
oh, hey, Instagram, Twitter, he is real. Let me tell you, man, he's real.
I'm an actual human. I exist
with a killer show. Yeah, and you have a killer show, man.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Yeah, we need to tweet at Twitter support or something. But anyhow, so those things happen, and then it just kind of started getting bigger, and then, in between all this, playing shows and playing shows with cool bands and big bands, and some of them are one-off shows, some of them are little tours, some of them are festival shows, all these kind of things. And it just, you start to make friends, and then, next thing you know is like, okay, I'm going to write another album. You know what I mean?
Right,
I'm going to start writing, and it's kind of, it's weird because I feel like right now, I feel like an old man. Okay. That's what I feel like. I feel like an old man, but I feel like this is like the biggest it's been, and then it's been for us. And then the other side of that too is, I don't know how deep you want to go into like the sound vapors thing, but that thing.
No, I do want to talk about that. That was going to be my next line of question. So just go for it.
Oh, well, that thing has just been growing, and actually, to be honest, that thing is spinning out of control. Like I never really thought it would. And here's the honest God truth. Okay. So in 2017, my dad passed. Okay. So it had like it would, I think, of anybody, you lose a parent. And let me just say this too, is I've had friends that lost parents, and I was always like sympathetic and always sad, of course, especially when you know that you lose anybody, you just really feel that emotional thing happens. But when you lose a parent, it's different. I just couldn't put into words. And I knew 110%. I knew how I was going to feel. I knew how I was going to handle it. I was wrong 110%. Like I was so wrong.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And it was just, I had people tell me, and now I'm that guy trying to tell people, oh, you don't understand, but you'll get it when you get it. You can't, it's like telling a child that they're making mistakes. They'll figure it out. You know what I mean? They're going to figure it out at some point. Anyway, so that event happened, and I don't know, that writing thing, the thing that happens to guys like us that write music, it just happened. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't try to, it wasn't contrived. I didn't sit down and say, I'm going to write these songs about my day. It wasn't like that at all. It just kind of happened. I was having these emotional series of episodes, not episodes, because I didn't do anything drastic or anything. I didn't, I wouldn't self-loathe, or, I didn't have a drinking problem. It wasn't anything like that. I was just sad,
Mm-hmm.
and, you think about those good times and bad times. And I think luckily I was able to channel that into songs. And so Jason, like I mentioned, he's a drummer, but he has he has a really, really gift of an ear. And so what I mean is he just hears harmonies and tone. It's weird because he doesn't really play guitar or bass or anything like that. Doesn't really play instruments besides the drums, but he hears things that I've been around producers and musicians and all this stuff. They don't hear like the way Jason hears it. It's very, very odd that he does. So he kind of is, I would say he's my partner in crime when it comes to like getting the songs to where they need to go. Cause I'll come up with the base of it. I'll record like drum tracks. I'll record bass and guitar, get them all these basic tracks. And he comes over and we kind of just finish them. You know what I mean? And he helps me with these harmonies. And anyhow, Jason came over and I was like, let's get in the studio and I want to start getting this stuff down. So we did. And I thought the songs came out really, really good. I was really so happy I felt like it was a good tribute to him and stuff. And so we covered a song by STP, was called Tumble in the Rough. And I always wanted to do a Stone Temple Pilots song, but I didn't want to do, I don't want to do Plush. I don't want to do Tripping on a Hole, something that people know. I wanted to do something that was, you knew the song, but it wasn't like a big hit. So I was like, let's do Tumble in the Rough and let's do it kind of trippy, kind of poppy, or not poppy's not the right word, but different, different than how they did it. And I think that would kind of do it justice, and it fits with the overall theme of this album. And so the album was called 71 Trips Around the Sun because he was 71 when he passed. And it just it really fit into this sometimes agony, but elation, all these kind of things. So it just really fit in there. And one quick note I wanted to tell you about Tumble in the Rough was, if you ever get a chance to go listen to it, the solo, I just want to say, took longer than the whole song to record, because I wanted to play it backwards to put it forwards. So I had to, each note had to play it in reverse so we could turn it around. So it would sound like a reverse thing, but in the right key or the right notes. Does that make sense?
Oh, I think I'm following you. So you're playing the, like, where he would maybe, I haven't literally paid much attention to that solo, so I'm not exactly sure what it sounds like, but maybe like where he would pull off, you would hammer on or something, or I'm not really. Yeah.
Well, so take the solo and then I had to like deconstruct it. I wanted to start at the end of it. So play it backwards.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So we could, then reverse it. So it sounded like it was in reverse, but it's actually the correct notes.
Yes.
So that took seriously, it took longer to record that solo than it was the whole song. And the funny thing is, nobody notices. Nobody cares. Nobody. I don't think anybody's ever said, "Oh, that's solo." I'm just like, damn it. I'm like, would you listen to this? This is cool. But anyway, that's a stupid side note. Anyway, so we recorded that. We shot a video for it, and the video, same thing. Now STP didn't tweet it out, but put it out, and like people responded to it. I got a lot of messages for it, and people were sharing it, and that video did well on YouTube as well. And I'm so thankful that people kind of, they just seem to get behind us. I don't really know why, but I'm just so thankful for it. Okay, so that whole long story goes to put out that record. So that came out in February of 18. So yeah, last year.
Okay.
February of last year. Yeah, so around that time, STP, they put out the new singer with Jeff Goop. It was like I think it was a self-titled, and they have their new singer after Chester passes. Scott, then Chester, and now Jeff is the lead singer. They put this record out, and I listened to it, and I'm like, wow, I expected something different from the way he sang on, I think it was America's Got Talent. I think that's where he's from. So the way he sang on there, I thought was very, how do I say this? It's very vibrato-esque. Like I thought it was too much. And I really thought, I'm not going to like that fit in STP, but got the record and I was like, oh my gosh, it is not that at all. It's great. It's so much. I think I went into it with a lower expectation where I was kind of blown away. So I'm reading the reviews that are online or whatever. And this one guy for this one magazine, I'm not even going to name names, but I know his name and the magazine's name. He wrote this review and it was awful. It was off. I was literally reading it saying that, have you ever listened to Stone Temple Pilots? Do you know who they are? Do you know who Stone Temple Pilots is? You know what I mean? That's how I felt when I was reading it. And he's like citing things where Jeff is trying to sound like Scott right here. And I'm just like, no, not at all. And it's in like a different spot. So yeah, I was kind of mad. So I was kind of telling my friends whatever. And I told my manager, I was like, Emily, I was just like pissed off that this guy wrote this whole article. He took the time to do it, but it was like, you don't have to like it. I'm not telling you to like it. I'm just saying is you're reviewing it wrong. You're saying that you're not listening to it right. You know what I mean? That's how I felt. So she was like, you should write your own review. I was like, yeah, I am going to write my review. And she goes, yeah, maybe we'll try to pitch it, get you as a guest contributor or something to a blog or a magazine or something. It's like, I am going to do it. So I wrote it and I sent it. She was like, wow, that's really good. So I sent it to my friends and they read it and they were just like, wow, like I didn't know you could write. And I was like, I'm not a writer. I mean, I write songs, but I don't, commas are in the wrong place. My punctuation is like seriously third grade level here. So, I mean, I went to Detroit public schools, man. I had long division like in like 8th grade or something there. It was awful. Anyway, so people were kind of saying it's good or whatever. So anyway, so there's a couple other records came out and I was like, yeah, I'm going to just, kind of give this a quick listen and write something about it. Anyway, so that whole thing kind of happened. And I was like, I should make a website, but I don't want to pay somebody to do it. And I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try to build this website. So I took like 2 or 3 weeks and just learned off of YouTube, basically how to WordPress a website. So I did that. So I made the site and I published the couple reviews that I had. I have some contacts in, music or whatever. Look, fortunate to have that. So I reached out to a couple and I was like, hey, such and such is going on tour and they have a new record. Can you get them on the phone so I can talk to them about it and stuff? And it was just like, yeah, for sure. So I did that. So I get like my, interviews. And it's weird because when you start these things, like, it's just like music. It's just like us. You start at the local level. You're playing shows at, whoop ass Wednesdays, that type of thing, wherever how you start when you're like that band, and then you move up to Thursdays and next thing, you're playing a Saturday night show and, and then hopefully you do well enough, you're drawing and then they put you on a national show and stuff. That's kind of like I would say trajectory of when you're like a local band starting out. So same thing with this kind of stuff. When you're blogging or on a website, I would say, yeah, I got some low hanging fruit in this city where I could go to these shows and talk to these bands. They would love to be on any kind of blog. It doesn't matter if I had 2 readers or 3 million readers. They just like to be on a blog. Of course, they'd want to be on, Revolver or Rolling Stone, of course. But my first interview I had for the site was, Doug from Hoobastank. I'm like, it was the very first thing I did.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm like, kind of throw me in a fire, right? So yeah, it went very well. It was a great interview. So I did it and, sent it out, whatever. And, they put it out to their fans and, people, the page started to get follows and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, that was really weird. They put it out, they think, Sound Vapors, and I was thinking of the name of it and I was like, Sound Vapors. I don't even know if that's cool or whatever, but it's kind of first thing I thought of, sound vapor, like we're sound guys, right? So sound and then the vapor of it kind of just, like dissipating is what I was envisioning. But,
yeah, I dig it.
You know how many vaping emails I get? Actually, it's kind of funny. Yeah. All the time, dude.
I guess, I never really thought about that, but yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I get it.
Oh man, I got 5 distributors I could call right now if I wanted to open a store. Okay. So anyway, so I was like, that happened. And then I was like, oh, this is kind of neat. And anyways, it just started from there. And then all of a sudden it was like, Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Rich Robinson. And then, just kind of blew up from there. So now it's like kind of gone crazy. And so last year I was like, I should just do a podcast with it because I enjoy talking to people. And I think people would like to hear what they have to say, hear the tone of their voice sometimes with these answers instead of just reading it.
Yes.
So like for me, I think one of the biggest moments I had doing this whole thing was with Stuart Copeland, because the Police are like 1A, 1B for me as far as like bands go, all-time favorites. And getting Stuart on the phone and have him be so cool and so nice and so accommodating, people didn't really get to hear that. They read it, but they didn't get to hear, I think, the joy in his voice talking about Synchronicity and thinking about Miss Gradenko and the song that he wrote. They didn't really get to hear his voice tick up when he
Right.
was excited talking about it. Yeah.
Right.
Or hear my voice when he's like, he tells me, he's like, hey, Tommy, I think I had this box I was going through from the 83 tour. And he goes, I think I found the original lyrics to Miss Gradenko, and I was like, no way. So I was like, can you take a picture and, send it to me or whatever? He's like, yeah, I can do that. I think if you were to hear my voice, I just said it calmly. I wasn't calm when when it happened on the actual interview. And then he like texted me the picture of the lyrics, and I was, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I didn't want to touch my phone because I didn't want to delete it by accident. Like, hey,
Yeah.
can you send it again? Yeah. So, it's one of those things where I was like, okay, I should do a podcast for this because I'm really kind of getting to talk to some interesting, amazing artists. And so here we are now with Sound Vapors doing its thing, and I'm like truly, truly busy with it. Like it seems like every day, and email box is full every day. And I try to get to everything. Seriously, bands, keep sending the stuff in because to me, good music is good music. I don't even care if you're Lenny Kravitz or you're, I can't think of a dumb name, but the I don't know, the guitar cases,
Kenny
whatever.
Blavis. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, if it's awesome, I want to talk about it and I want to tell people, I want to promote it. So there's this one publicist. This was late last year. She sends me an email and I saw it, but I was just kind of crazy busy doing with the podcast. It was really kind of gearing up, so I was just killing them, getting a lot of them out. She sends me a second follow up, and I'm like, okay, I gotta get to this. Don't know who the band is, never heard of them. She sends me a final, hey, I just want to follow up one final time type of thing, that type of, and it wasn't, hey, how's it going? It was like, hey, man, I just want to follow up, So I open it, I'm like, dude, I got to get to this. It's around the holidays, so I'll have some time. So I listened to the thing, man. I listened to it, and I'm blown away. It's not even the word. Oh my goodness. That's not a word. That's two words. Okay. It's not even the phrase, right?
I get it. Yeah.
So I listened to it. And I listened to it again. And so now I'm probably on the 20th listen. And so like what I do is with the album is I always play Madden. But I play like 2006 because I can't stand the way that video games move so fast nowadays. So I have to play the old version because it's kind of like really awful and barbaric. Like the guy's arms don't move, that type of stuff. So I play so stupid. So I play Madden when I'm really locking into an album. So this whole thing I must have played 4 hours. I just kept repeating this album over and over and over. So at the end of the year, I wanted to do a best of top 10 list. And I wanted to be true. I don't even want, if it's a local band, I don't even know who it was. Come to find out. So the band's name is Facing New York. I tell everybody is so sick of me talking about these guys because anytime somebody gets in my car, I'm like, dude, you got to hear this song. Like, yeah, I was with you last week. Like they already heard the whole album because I say one song. Yeah. But, we'll listen to track 3, So the guy that's the singer, writer, songwriter, whatever in it, he goes by Ricky Reed, and Ricky Reed is an enormously huge producer. Huge. I mean, CeeLo Green to Maroon 5 to 21 Pilots to I think Sia. I mean, he's just Meghan Trainor. He's the man when it comes to like that kind of production.
Mm-hmm.
But this album was Face New York. I didn't know, never heard of it. I didn't know it was him. So I have no idea who the band is. I don't know who's in it. So it was so true. It was so genuine where I fell in love with the album. So as I'm making the list, I had to put it number 1. And I actually got some crap on Twitter. Like, you got to look a local no-name band is number 1. But I'm like, and I try not to argue on Twitter, especially with, the way things are with social media. It can kind of get crazy, but
feeding the trolls.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like, here's some fire here, have some.
Mm-hmm.
So you want some gasoline on that? So they, some people were just like, I can't believe you have this as the number 1 album. And I'm like, I guess I say is, did you listen to it? So if you're a rock fan and you listen to it and you don't like it, it's okay. But at least listen to it and come at me with your own top 5 or top 10 list. Just don't say mine sucks. You know what I mean? Like I put the time in and I listened to every album that was on that top 10 list. So that band for me turned I think it's one of those things I always say, I wear it almost like a badge of honor, is it doesn't matter if it's Pearl Jam putting out a record or Facing New York, who people still don't know who they are. I just want it to be good music. So bands, if you're listening, send the albums. If I can get to them all, I try to get to everything, but if I get to it and I like it, I'm going to put something behind it. Definitely. Because it doesn't matter if it's big or small. I just want it to be great music. Yep. Sounds like a commercial.
Well, I mean, that is the most important part, right? It just has to be good. I mean, that's kind of, this sounds kind of weird, but going back to that Black Keys episode I was talking about. So Dan said something, or not Dan, excuse me. Patrick said something on there because Patrick did most of the talking. That really struck me as interesting that I never put two and two together before. So obviously those guys are big music fans. They're talking about Nirvana and Captain Beefheart and the Stooges and all those influences.
Nice.
And then he's talking about some certain artists who have like millions and millions and millions of plays on streaming, and you listen to him and you're just like, what? Like, huh? Yeah. Like, why? And he's like, when I was a kid, I bought Vanilla Ice, and I was so stoked on that, and I listened to it over and over and over and over and over and over again. He's like, that's who's listening to these artists. It's just young kids who don't actually like he's not like belittling them, but he's just like, it's just kids who haven't had the depth of experience yet to know that like, this is kind of mediocre, And I was like, oh wow, I never really thought about it that way. It's like that's why some of these people have millions and billions of plays in it, and I just don't get it. I mean, part of it's because I'm old. There's that too.
Oh,
but
I'm totally with. Hey, man, brother, I am with you on that because I do sometimes. I go and see that. Like, wait a minute, wait. 3 million streams on this song. It sounds like it was recorded on their phone or whatever. And actually, yeah, what he says holds water because I think when I was younger, actually that Vanilla, I had the tape, so it was like. It was like To the Extreme and Hooked, right? So I had the cassette tape. So I did listen to it over and over. But yeah, man, when I got older, I don't know. Yeah, it definitely didn't mean as much as it did when I was that age listening to Ice Ice Baby.
Exactly. I mean? Exactly. So yeah, I just thought it was a kind of an interesting note since we're kind of going on music industry speak a little bit, It's just kind of a interesting thing, But talk about your podcast a little bit more. So, like, what's the format of it? Like, obviously, it's interviews, but it's different than this. So, can you kind of explain that for the listeners a little bit?
Yeah, it's probably honestly, it's yours. Okay, I've been listening to your podcast, and I like your structure. It just sounds so professional. You just sound like you have a real thing. Mine, I feel like, is just you have to bleep me out, a crap show. You know what I mean? Like it sometimes the episode's 30 minutes. Sometimes it's an hour 14 just because, it's sometimes I feel like it's all over the place and I don't want to belittle it, but I just like to talk about music. So sometimes if I get on a rant or if I get on a subject that I'm really passionate about, I can't help it, So I say my format is I like top 10 lists. I'm a big top 10 guy. So even at Sound Vapors, there's a top 10 tab and random. I mean, literally 3:00 in the morning, I'll wake up and say, "Ooh, I should do a top 10 on this." I'm like, I got to pull out my computer and start putting it on, so, either in an email or even put it on the site because I like top 10 lists a lot. So
okay.
I always try to do that. Yeah, every show I will try to do a top 10. So for instance, I had Meltdown. He's from a radio station here in Detroit, but it's like the big hitter radio station. It's been the rock station, the number one rock station since I've been a kid. So it's the one. And so I tried to do top Detroit sports athletes. So I do try to put it around the show a little bit. And I think I had, I don't know who I did the drummer list with. It might've been Veronica Bellino. Do you know Veronica?
I don't.
You should reach out. She's a drummer, but she is so talented, but, she plays drums. She's played drums with everybody. Jeff Beck, DMC, Daryl McDaniels,
wow.
Carmen Apiece. I'm trying to think, she plays with she plays with everybody. And I think I did the drum. I might be wrong here. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I think I did the top 10 drummers, my favorite drummers with her, just because just talking drums with her it was so good. And I was like, yeah, I'll just keep me on 15, 20 minutes. It was like an hour, and either one of us was sick of talking because we just both like talking about drums and music, So I would say the show is kind of that. If I'm really in the mood or I have time, I will put drops in just to I don't try to be funny. I think some things are funny. Like I like drops from Dumb and Dumber. I just think when I hear them, I laugh, even if it's in the wrong spot. I just think they're very funny, so that kind of stuff. And then, like I said, the interview, I don't want to be hokey though at all, because I love talking music and like your podcast tone. I like talking about tone of guitar. So I was talking to Chad Taylor from Live, and it was supposed to be promoting their new EP that just came out, last year. but we wound up talking a half an hour about Secret Samadhi, which I think is it's in my top 100 all time, like all time records. It's probably I actually have the list, but I think it's in the 60s somewhere. I think it's that great of an album, and it was. I mean, we must have went. I mean, it was like a good 10 real minutes of tone and how he set up and the strings he was using and like the miking and the amp and all this stuff. And I don't know. I always get good feedback on the shows. People are always, if they text me or they send me an email or tweet, I feel like when they get something out of it, it's great. But I was almost like, man, people probably hate this because, it's kind of getting like that technical side, but I loved it. I loved every second of it.
Yeah, it's nerdy, but there's lots of nerds. People love hearing about that kind of stuff, especially when it's somebody they're interested in. It's like, oh, that's how he got that sound. That's the part I find so cool about being able to do this show and being able to have some exposure to that. It's like, oh, now we can like find out. Like before, when I was a kid, and for sure when you were growing up, it was like, how does he get that sound? You literally had no idea. Like you just had no clue. And now we have so much more access to information. We at least know, like, well, maybe this isn't exactly what they use, but we can get close. And then when you can hear it straight from the horse's mouth, it's just, oh, it all kind of just makes sense. It's fun.
I mean, we had to wait for Circus Magazine to publish an article, to hear, what Alex Lifeson was doing on that Rush album, or Neil Peart or something like that. But now it's like, you're right, with all these things and podcasts, I mean, you can hear it from, and these people are really willing to come on a show and talk about, not just to promote the album. I mean, some people do, and that's okay too. I mean, that's the forum for it. I'm more than happy to do it, but I'm surprised at the amount of people that want to talk about the specifics, the drum heads they use, the gauge strings that they use and all this stuff. And then if we start talking about equipment, and then on those episodes, I guess I always say too, is I never want to make it about me, because I always want it to be about them. So, sometimes I'll tell them, hey man, we have to put that crap in the show. We're talking about our, the amps, and because sometimes they're genuine too. And they're like, oh, what's your setup? Like, what are you using? That type of thing. Because I think guitar players just like to talk to other guitar players and pick up I mean, there's legends that still pick up stuff. Everybody picks up tricks.
Oh, everybody. It never ends. Never.
Yeah. So, that's, so far as the show goes, it's like I said, sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. It just depends on kind of how it goes, how it flows. But I really, really enjoy it. And I hope to keep doing it, because the listeners, they just keep coming in. It was weird. I had Wes Scantlin from Puddle of Mud on, and that was a couple weeks ago, and I had questions. They have the new comeback record, which I really liked. I really enjoyed it, and it was on my radar. So when I talked to his publicist, she reached out and was like, hey, can you do something with the album? And I was like, oh, I'd be happy to, because I knew it was coming out. I just didn't know when. So she advanced it, and I'm listening to it. So when I get Wes on the show, I was kind of like, okay, I don't want to talk too much about like, arrests or drugs or anything like that, because I don't want to make him uncomfortable.
Right.
This guy is 5 minutes in the show and he starts going into it, and he's talking about, how down in a hole in the pit, of life he was in and stuff. And, I had a list of questions, but it just really hit me. It was like, man, he wants to talk about this. And I think listeners would get something out of it. And it wound up being one of my favorite interviews, because he was so candid and he didn't hide anything. And I think it was really uplifting. They hear him sound so lucid, so clear, and so motivated to come back and like really just to do the rock star thing again. And I'm pulling for him so much, because it'd be great if he sticks around and just keeps putting out good music and shows up to the shows and plays just killer rock shows, And that one wound up being one of my more popular episodes. It's funny when you look at, I'm sure you do too, right? You can see the stats on it, and I'm looking at these numbers going up, and his is one of the most downloaded shows. It just kind of got out there, and I just didn't think that going into it. To be honest with you, I was like, oh yeah, my normal audience will see it. No, man, people, they like it. They dig his story, man, and I dig it too. So
yeah, when you're doing these podcasts, it's sometimes you think it's going to be one thing. Like, we should probably have talked about your pedal board by now, but we haven't quite done that yet.
Yes,
but like. I had this girl, you've got to check her out if you haven't. She's been on the show. Her name's Emily Wolf, and she's from Austin. I don't know if you've seen her or not, but
I've seen her. She has YouTube, so I've seen her name, and I know I've seen something that she's done, so I know her name.
Yeah, you should do a deep dive onto her latest record. I mean, guitar tone and playing and singing is all out of control. It's so good. It's so good. I'm
Awesome.
a big fan, and so it was neat to get to talk to her. But we got to another section of the show where we were going to wrap it up, and she started talking about some of her past with her substance abuse issues and things, and it was like, oh, this is taking a turn, like and so it were all that to say. And I had a similar experience with Robert Keeley from Keeley Electronics early on, discussing some of his struggles, and it was just like it was kind of a slap in the face. It was like, I thought we were just going to talk about fuzz pedals. You never know where these conversations can go, and so I think that's sometimes the most rewarding part of the experience, is getting to be open and hear what these other people have to say and kind of glean from their life experiences. And it's just one of the side benefits of podcasting, I suppose. It's interesting.
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
It's such a and it's a cool form that we have this kind of, one, that we have this avenue to talk to people, but also for them to come on. I think it's therapeutic for everybody involved. I think it really can be, because I think there was a disconnect. If we look, I probably assume we're probably around the same age. So, if you're looking 80s magazines and stuff, I mean, those questions were very vanilla. They didn't really dig too deep. But when you're in a podcast situation, I mean, again, I try to keep everybody comfortable, but sometimes you just want to know, and sometimes they're willing to open up with you. And I think this has been a great thing. Like anything else in the world, things can become oversaturated. So there are, I don't even know, there's probably 1 billion podcasts. I have no idea, but there's millions of podcasts out there. And
I think 700,000 was the number I heard last. Was where
is it 700,000?
Yeah.
Wow, that's less than I
crazy.
thought it would be. Yeah, that's a lot still, right?
Still a lot.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's good ones, there's bad ones. Like yours, I got turned on to. Actually, it was how did I find you? I don't even know. I like tone stuff, so I'm always searching for that kind of stuff. And I was like, this dude gets it, man. This guy, this is really cool, because nobody really talks about tone stuff. It's like when I started interviewing, I didn't want to ask the stupid, hey, what's your band name mean? Sometimes you want to know, but like I'd get that. Like if I got that question, what's your band name? I'm like, Tommy Marz Band. Like, come on, man. Like,
like what else do you want me to say? Right.
Yeah. It's just like, like those kind of questions or whatever. Like I wanted to dig deeper, but I was surprised when I was kind of going out and listening, because I like to do research. It's like being a musician, you want to hear other guitar players and stuff. I kind of was listening to some, and I was like, whoa, like these questions are like kind of bad, or it's very, it just didn't come out very well or whatever. I was like, okay, that's good. I heard that, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like that. But then I hear a really good one where I'm like, oh man, I could never be that good. It's like your speaking voice. You have a great speaking voice. I don't, but I wish I did. But you have a great podcast speaking voice. You know what I mean? It's awesome. And I want to have that kind of voice, but I mean, it is what it is, right?
Well, I really appreciate that. That means a lot. I also, one of the other things I have that is I've been told many times, is I have a face for it as well. So that works. That works out in my. No one has to look at me.
There you go, man.
Anyway,
there you go. You should put that mug on the photo on the podcast. Like, hey, right here, this is the guy you're talking to. This is
the guy, and then be like, oh, I'm not tuning into that. Look at that guy. Got to keep a veil of mystery. No,
yeah.
No, it's. I mean, I'm around. It's just. I don't know. It's weird. I've always been weird about like taking selfies and stuff. And like, I don't know. But it still feels weird every time I do it. I'm like, am I a 14-year-old girl? I'm acting like one right now because I'm taking a picture of myself. But it's just part of the culture, I suppose.
It is the culture, and I on a personal level, I don't really love it, and so. I mean, I think we talked before, and I was saying about that, how, it would be like, hey, Tommy, you're not posting enough. You need to post more, band related stuff, take some selfies, put the pictures, keep people engaged and all that stuff. And it's just, at the end of the year, you can get a report of how many, whatever that is. So it's like, my thing was like, you post one every 6 days, that's like an average. And now I know it's even less than that, because I don't know, man. It's a weird culture. It's a weird thing that we're in right now. And I know I need to do it. And good things happen when I do. That's the thing. If I take a cool selfie, or if I'm somewhere or playing guitar in the studio, good things happen, man. You hashtag it, people start following you. I mean, it does work. It just seems a little weird to always put yourself out there like that. I guess if I was John Mayer, I guess I would do it as much as he does too. So,
well, if I looked like John Mayer, yeah, sure I would. I mean, that makes
sense. Yeah. I be on the toilet like, hey, guess what I'm doing? You know?
Yeah,
And he'd get
exactly.
1 million likes.
Yeah, because I'm John Mayer. Look at me go.
Exactly. This
So,
guy.
so
Anyway.
we're 46 minutes in, and I'm gonna be in trouble. I actually did a podcast here yesterday with a music therapist, which was really interesting. His name's Chris Millett.
Oh.
And we didn't talk about gear at all because the subject matter was so fascinating. So I'm going to have to let's sidestep before my entire audience leaves, and let's talk about your rig. What are you playing out with these days?
Okay, so the head I use mostly for me the tone of the tone is studio. I use it for the studio. I have a 1972 Marshall JMP.
Ooh,
Which,
yes.
yeah, it's the tone is great. I think one disadvantage of it, I don't like to use the what is that attenuator? Whatever that.
The
thing is.
attenuator, yeah.
Yeah, attenuator. I can never say that right. I don't like that because I don't want to beat it up. I don't want it to work that hard. So I don't want to use it in a live setting, and because it has everything is original. So George Metropolis is like the guru guy, and
Yes.
he's been yeah. Oh, you would know him, yeah, of course. So he's been through it, and it's got A+ health, but he has a lot of the original stuff that there's like lead and stuff they're not really making that you really can't get anymore. And I don't want to take a chance of popping any of that stuff. So for me, I use it for studio, so I can turn the knobs 10 plus, and I want it to burn and get that natural killer Jimi Hendrix kind of tone. I don't want to really use an effects pedal to get that distortion. I want it to be from the head. And you've been to live shows. If I turn the thing up to 10 and I play at a 3,000 seat event, everybody's going to be deaf. They will not be able to hear for the next couple of days if I turn this thing up to 10. Like, seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If I turn it up to 2.5 at a live setting, the sound guy's like, hey, can you turn it down? I mean, it's really loud. So in a studio setting, that's what I use for when I really want that dirty tone. I would say gigging out, I'm probably using the most, honestly, is oh, you know what? I got the Fender Deluxe, and it's a 93, so it's actually not the reissue. It's actually one of the ones they came out with. And I like the tone of that. And it's nice because that's another thing too. You can turn it to like 4 and it really starts to beef up, and the tubes get nice and hot, and you don't got the sound guy, running up behind you trying to turn it down. And so that's pretty nice to play out with. I think if I was like on a big tour, yeah, I mean, if you're playing amphitheater or something like that, you can. Well, no, I'd like to have the Marshall up there because it's just cool. When that's behind you, it's like almost like a confidence boost. Like
Oh,
you
yes.
got this again. Yeah, it just it doesn't hide mistakes, but it's a tone is awesome on it. So, but I'll say that Fender Deluxe, and then there's this I have this orange. You know what it is? It's that you ever see those Tiny Terrors? And
Yes.
it's like it's like 15 watts or 7 watts. Dude, I'll put it on the 7, and you can put it to 10, and like just turn the there's like a gain knob. Just turn it up like to a quarter. Dude, you really get some sick tone. But I notice when it's not turned all the way up and doesn't get really hot, it doesn't sound, it's a little shrilly. But if you let it like really get hot, you can get some good tone out of it. So that's a nice little thing to use too. And then the cab on that, I like the oh my gosh, I feel so bad. What's the speaker company? They were putting their
Celestion or
yeah, but it was they made their own cabinets, and they put those Celestians in there, the greenbacks and stuff. Oh my goodness. Anyway, no, was it Avatar?
Oh, Avatar. Avatar's one of the bigger. Yeah, they make a lot of cabs. Avatar does.
That maybe it was Avatar. Yeah, so you get one of those, and with those again, if you like those, well, some people like the Alnicos, some you like the greenbacks. Get some really good speakers in there, because to me that's a big part of it. Because if you have those. Like if you buy a Marshall stack, the reg with the black face on there, you get those 75 watt, I don't even know if they are Jensen's maybe, and they don't sound very good. And I don't want to rip on any company in particular, but I replaced those right away. And just that it's to me is night and day. I mean, do you feel like the same with the experience? Why speakers is an important part of that?
Oh, speakers are so underrated in the tonal chase. I feel like lots of people, myself included, kind of ignore the speaker, but we need to be honest with ourselves. Like in a traditional electric guitar rig, the speaker is the thing that actually making the physical sound. It's taking all of those electronic impulses and translating them into mechanical movement to make the sound. So arguably the speaker is one of the most important parts of the signal chain because it's actually making the sound.
Yeah.
And I I haven't done a ton of experimenting with it. I usually if I get a cab that sounds good, I'm like, cool. But if I get one that sounds bad, I'm not going to buy it. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to change the speakers in it. But that said, I do have this old 1961 Fender Champ that was my grandpa's, and
Ooh.
it sounds really good, but you know how those things are. They can be
Yeah.
a little bit farty and a little bit weird.
Yeah, I love it though.
Yeah, well, yeah, and there's something though that I always rub me the wrong way on certain things. But I put in an Alnico WGS G8A into there, and it still sounds like a Champ, but it took all of the things that I didn't really like about it and toned them down a little bit, and the things I did like about it, it seemed to accentuate. So it was a really nice upgrade, and I still have the original speaker, and it's a plug and play. This in those amps is a plug and play deal, so it's not a big, you're not hurting the value or anything.
Yeah,
But yes,
super easy.
speakers are
definitely.
important, very important.
Yeah, I mean, you can get speakers broken in. I would say too, if you're not like gigging out or going on tour, I wouldn't get them broken in personally. I'd like to break them in myself. But if you're like, hey, we're recording in 2 weeks, and really time to really mash on them, you can get these from. And I like now you say, yeah, I think it is Avatar. You can get them where they're already kind of broken in a little bit, and to me it makes a difference. I didn't think it did, but to me it makes a difference when the speakers are right. And because it's one thing having the right speaker, but it's also having it where it has some play on it, because they can be a little stiff out of the box.
Yeah, like literally stiff. Like it will feel stiff because the speaker itself is still not that flexible yet. Like actually mechanically, we use those terms a lot, and they don't actually mean anything, But like, oh, this guitar feels like the response on this amp feels stiff, and while that makes sense to us as players, electronically, it doesn't mean anything. In this case, it actually is literally stiff. So
yeah, absolutely. And I would say, so as far as like amps go, that's where I'm at on that. Guitar wise, I was always like a Les Paul guy. I liked Les Pauls. I liked the way they felt, but something happened. I don't know. One time what it was. A guy had an American Strat that he was selling and needed the money or whatever, and so I was like, yeah, I'll get it off of you. Something changed to me, and I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. The sweet spot on this thing through, like a Marshall or a Plexi or something. Oh my goodness. Like when you do that, when you do that, something changes in the way you play, the way you want it, the way you want to hear it. So I kind of became a Fender guy. So I got, got a couple American Strat, got a Telly. And then, it's weird actually. Before that, I bought this. Do you know what Schecter guitars? Have you played one?
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay. Yeah.
So I have one that's like one of their kind of up plus models, whatever. And when I bought it, I was like so excited. It's actually kind of light too, because those Strats can kind of, well, especially my Telly. If I don't think I can play a whole damn show with a Telly. It's so heavy. My shoulders actually ache. You know what I mean? Because I like to jump and I got to prepare, man. When I'm jumping with a Telly, I got to think, okay, what guitar do I have on right now? You know what I mean? I don't know how Prince did it, jumping off the piano. Anyway, so this Schecter, I got it and I was like so excited, and then I got these Fenders and it just never again did it sound great. So I actually replaced the picks. I put like these, I think they're 57 Gibson pick. I think that's what I put in there, and it did beef it up some. So now that's my guitar that I put 9s on, because I like to use 10s. They're a little thicker. I feel like the tone, it's not a huge audible thing, but they're a little thicker. And but if I'm trying to do Steve Vai stuff, or if I want to play like Rust in Peace Megadeth, I'm gonna pick up that Schecter because I got 9s on it and I can bend that sucker fretboard the front to back. You know what I mean? You can bend them all the way, and yeah, it's awesome. So now I use that for that. When I want to burn, that's the guitar I use. But when I want like good tone, or just kind of have more of a personality on a guitar, then I wouldn't use the Schecter. But I don't mean it in a bad way. It serves its purpose, but it just has more of that tone, Rust in Peace, Countdown to Extinction tone, than some of the stuff that I would prefer it sound like.
Right.
So, yeah, and then
do you play with many pedals, or are you not really a pedal guy? I know you like to get your dirt from the amp, but you like to use other things?
Yeah, so pedal board wise, I have the Crybaby, gotta have the wah. Yeah, the wah is a dangerous thing because that can I feel like it can become like a crutch. So I went through a period I felt like all my solos I was going through the wah, and I felt like I don't know. Now I'm not using it at home, maybe 10% of the show, but it got to a point I was using like 90% of the show because it is a little easier to fake through things. And if you played a couple shows close to each other, whatever, and you're just like kind of finger fatigue, it's easier with the wah. And it sounds kind of weenie, but I can make it. I can hang on a string and I can let the wah do the work. You know what I mean? I'm not really working that hard, and I know it
Yeah.
sounds so bad, but it's just true. It's one of those things. But then I feel like I was trying to get away from like really playing the instrument correctly. But that's in my chain. Of course, you have your tuner. I like the Boss tuner. I'm just used to it. Effects wise, I still have the Carl Martin. I have the Plexitone. I don't use it as much as I used to, but I have it in my chain there. I like the tone. There is a nice boost though on that one. So if you're going to solo, it is a really nice boost. I have the full tone, the fat boost. That thing actually, I don't even put the gain that far up. I just like it on. To me, it just makes everything a little wider. I like the way it sounds. I have a Pog. It's a Pog 2. I like the weirdness of it. I like that, you can almost make a sitar sound or an organ, if you're really trying to be chill or do something kind of vibey. I think it can be really cool. Oh, and then my Electric Mistress, that's Electro Harmonics.
Oh yeah,
that is my
those are great.
favorite pedal. Oh man, because Andy Summers, that whole Police thing, dude, that is my.
That's
I'm not
the
gonna
sound.
cuss, but that is,
Yeah.
that's it. I love it, man. I love that pedal. If anything happened to it, I'd be so crushed because I found an analog one and I found it. I think it was eBay, and things can happen, and I'm just like I always knock on wood every time I use it. Like, please don't be the day that this thing stops working because it's awesome. You know what I mean? Because the new ones, the digital ones, they have a little bit of I don't know. They have this. I don't even know what to know. It's not static, but there's a little bit of a something that comes along. I don't even know what it is. But anyways, there's a guy. I should have had this ready for you. I could have told you his name. Actually, you know what? I'll email you the guy's name. But he worked for Harmonix way back in the day. He knows how to mod these things so they don't do that. And yeah, I mean, he will do that. You got to send him the pedal. I mean, there's a turnaround time or whatever. But yeah, it's like those MXRs, those Phase 90s. Remember those orange pedals?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of got to get that thing modded if you don't want that thing having that weird. It's almost like that. There's a weird sound that those things came with out of the box, and to me, like on the internet, you can find how to mod it, but I didn't really want to snip any wires, so I sent it to a guy I knew. Hey, can you mod this thing so it stops that stupid noise that it's doing? And I got it back, and it's completely fine. It's clean, But
nice.
Yeah. So I think it's all using. But then I have a box of pedals like literally over the years. I'm sure you do too. I'm sure everybody had the Metal Zone at one point.
Well, yeah, classic.
Yeah, you got to have that. Yeah. What is it? The Ibanez? What is it? The TS8, TS9, both of those. Yeah, I'm trying to think. A bunch of them. They come in and out. You know how it is. Like sometimes I'll fall in love for a while, and then I'll fall out of love, and then I'll put it back in the chain and say, "Oh man, how come I haven't been using this? I like the sound of it." And then, then the whole record has it on it, and then hopefully 3 years later, you're like, "Oh, why did I use that pedal on the, on it and stuff?" But
right, yeah. Why did I put phaser on everything? Phaser on the drums? What was I thinking? What am I doing?
Do I really need a flange on the bass guitar right now? You know what I mean?
But maybe you do. Maybe you do.
Yeah, right.
Well, we've been talking for an hour and it's flown by. It's been great.
Wow.
But I better get into my last two questions for the podcast, and we'll get you down the road because I know you've got things to do. So, the first one, and you may have already answered this, but what is your favorite Boss pedal?
Oh, my favorite Boss pedal, besides the tuner, because the tuner is rock solid. Oh my gosh, it really is. Because I actually have had other tuners, and they're just I don't like them. I just like that one. But as far as you know what I like, they make a really good. I have it is an acoustic guitar simulator. It's a yellowish, kind of a darker yellowish color pedal. That is a real good one. So if you don't want to have use a DI and get the acoustic out and stuff, this is a really good thing to turn on. If you dial it in correctly, it will sound like an acoustic guitar. So I think that might be my favorite Boss pedal because of just the way it sounds. Yeah, it sounds genuine to me. It took a while though. Like it probably took I don't know the days, but it took a little while for me to figure it out. Cause at first I was like, I hate it. I took it out, but then like my buddy went to like, I think he went to a Rush show and Alex was using that. And so, he's using it, I'm doing something wrong. So then I kind of re-put it back in there. I was like, oh, okay. So I just messed with it for a while. And so I think that's it. The Boss Acoustic.
All right, cool. All right, and this is the big question. This is the one that everybody waits the whole episode for.
Oh boy.
What kind of pizza do you like?
Okay. Wow. That's a very good question. Okay. So you're talking to a guy now that I've developed an allergy to beef. Okay. First, let me just disclose here. My whole life, hot dogs, hamburgers, steaks, filet mignon. I mean, if I had to pick one favorite food, it's a fat burger, right? Well, something happened. Yeah. I still haven't figured it out yet, but I can't eat beef. I like kind of my joints get really sore and I don't feel great. So,
oh no.
Yeah. So with
It's terrible.
pizza, it's terrible. It's like the worst thing in the world for somebody that loves hamburgers, right? I don't care if it's Wendy's. Yeah. Or like a fat burger place. If I'm in a different city, I want to try out the burger, right? So I'm like really upset about it, but you adapt, right? So anyway, so my pizzas now, I can't get them cut because if the guy cuts through a sausage, a pepperoni, and then cuts my pizza, I'm going to feel sick. So I actually have to get a pizza now with I get green peppers and onions. The reason why I'm telling you all this, because I don't want people to think this guy does not know how to eat pizza. No, I know how to eat pizza, man. I can't do it. And I want to. So it's pepperoni and green peppers. No, I mean, it's green peppers and onions, but no pepperoni. I can only have it that way and uncut. I got to cut the stupid thing myself.
Gotcha. Wow. That's interesting. Even the oils from another pizza. That's that's rough. That'd be hard to avoid. You couldn't almost have anybody cook anything for you. Is that accurate?
Yes. So going out to a restaurant has been difficult. I like if I go to like a Mexican restaurant, I'm like getting, bean burritos and stuff. For me, it was always getting deep fried tacos, man. I'd destroy a whole plate of those. I can't do them. I can't do it anymore. So if I'm out to eat, if they cook, they're like, hey, have a veggie burger. And I'm not a vegetarian. I can still eat bacon, which is weird. I can still eat pork, which just haven't figured this out, but I don't like pork as much as I like beef. Right. So they're like, hey, we got this great veggie burger. The problem is it's cooked on the same place the hamburger was. I'm going to get sick. So I can't do that. I got to stick to safe stuff, but oh, well, you
can't have it affecting the joints. You got to be able to play,
No, that's true because actually one day I must have had something that got dipped and something happened and I was actually recording the next day. So that morning I woke up and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And I was doing guitar stuff. I made it through it, but it was really painful. Like the next couple of days, my fingers were really hurting. So I was like, yeah, that was stupid. I should have just had a salad. Like I said, at the top of your show, salad. That's why I'm eating so much darn salad is because it's just safe. I wash it. I put cucumbers and tomatoes and the kid is right. It's all good.
Yeah, you're going to feel fine when you get done with the salad, which is that's important. You got to feel good.
Yeah, man. What about you, man? What's your favorite pizza?
Oh man. Yeah, I get that thrown back at me once in a while. I love a really good New York style slice. I really, really get a lot of enjoyment out of that. I was skeptical for a really long time about it. I was like, I would see pictures of it and I'm like, it looks like pizza. Like, I don't understand what's so special about it. Then I got there, I tried a couple of them, and I was instantly like, oh, I understand now. I understand. So, yeah, I really like New York style pizza in New York if I can at all make that happen. But I also like wood-fired, Italian style joints and things like that. So
it's funny you say because
I like a lot of
New York
kinds.
is the best. No, I think the Chicago style is like completely overrated because it's like too much dough. And I'm Midwest, so you got to love, Chicago pizza. I don't like it. I like New York style. And it's funny you say being New York because I'm actually going to New York here in a couple days, some music stuff. And yeah, you know what? We were just talking about that. It's like, Tommy, you got to get New York pizza when you're there. I'm like, I do have to get pizza, except they can't cut it. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're gonna look like I'm an idiot. But yes, absolutely. So this time on Sunday, your boy here, he's gonna be eating New York style pizza, but veggie.
Nice. I mean, really though, it's like for me, the New York style slice, it's like I'm sometimes happiest with just a cheese slice,
There you go.
And that sounds weird from a guy who likes meat. Like I love meat, but man, a cheese slice done right. Ooh.
Heck yeah, man.
it gets me in the spot. But,
Heck
well,
yeah.
we should probably wrap this thing up. We've been at it for a while. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the interwebs?
Okay. Twitter. Actually, all the handles are Tommy Marz Band. So TOMMYMARZBAND. So you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram that way. The website that way. Yeah, I think that's it, man. That's the best. And really, honestly, I say this on my podcast is it really is the best place to get me is tweet at me on Twitter, because sometimes with the DMs, and I'm sure you have this too, if sometimes they get a little crowded and I don't see everything. And sometimes I go through a delete thing where I'm just like, my gosh, there's 300 messages. I'm just, that sounds really bad of me, doesn't it? Now I said it out loud. I feel like a jerk. Okay, just at me. If you just at me, it's the easiest place, honestly, and I will respond. Even if you're a jerk, I'm going to respond, because I'll respond with a nice hello.
Okay, well, that's good. So you can find him on Twitter. I'm never on there, so find me on Instagram.
Awesome. Okay, cool, man. Cool.
All right, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Tommy. This was great.
Thank you, man. All right. It's been a pleasure. And thanks again. And I'm sure we'll be talking in the future sometime soon.
Of course. For Tommy, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, we did it. Make sure you go check out Tommy on the various socials. And of course, check out his show, Sound Vapors. Pretty easy to find. Do a little searching. Tommy Marz Sound Vapors into whatever search tool you're using. We'll bring it up. I checked it. Okay, I didn't check all of them. I just checked Google. But Google, that's what everybody uses anyway. So, last thing for this podcast is, hey, apparently a lot of you listen to this, because I had about 25 or 30 people try to claim the pizza, and I can't even imagine how many of you there would have been who decided not to try because it had already been like 3 days or whatever. But yeah, first couple days, there was a lot of emails flying around there and some messages and stuff. But yeah, free pizza apparently brings everybody together. But I was able to get a few folks pizza for listening to their podcast. So make sure you listen to this thing to the end. You never know what kind of little sneakeroo I might put in there. All right, folks, I will talk to you next time and all that jazz. Later. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.